Wednesday, June 1st. Thank you, Lisa. It's Wednesday, June 1st. I don't know how it's June already. Today is Wednesday, and we will start the meeting for the Hudson City Industrial Development Agency. So in attendance today, Lisa, for your recording, we've got Mayor Johnson, we've got Treasurer Campbell, we have Planning Board Chair Joyner, we have Majority Leader Moranti, and myself. I don't believe Richard Wallace has joined us here yet. So we're going to change up our agenda a little bit today because I know that a couple of people have a hard stop at 4:30. So we will do our best to get through what we need to. The first thing is I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the May 5th, 2022 meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
Oh, Heather was verbal and Teresa was a visual second. I'll give that one to Heather. All good, all good. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, we're gonna actually start today. Ted, we're gonna put the upfront here with Mike. Our order today is going to be the Administrative Director's Report, which will also include the project updates, inclusive of the 402 Warren Street information. Hi, I'm sorry, who's on the 631 phone number?
That's me, Ryan. I was muted. Apparently, you couldn't hear me. I hope you can hear me now.
Perfect. Richard, you are there. Excellent. So we are fully here. And then we're going to go to the SEC 7 LLC application element. And then, Ted, we will turn it over to you for the outcomes from other things. So without further ado, Mr. Tucker, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The first item that we would like to address is the requirement that New York State has imposed relating to future open meeting law issues. And Chriselle, our attorney, will give a little bit of background on the virtual meeting resolution where we must hold a public hearing about our new policy. Chris?
Oh, you're on mute.
Mute, Chris.
Sorry.
That's actually the first part of the resolution. Thou shalt make sure that you are not on mute. But
Exactly. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
There's always 10 people who are happy to tell you.
So under the law that was adopted earlier this year, there are new provisions for holding meetings via video conference. For the time being, you can continue to operate under the executive order, which provides the flexibility that you've been using now under COVID. Once that executive order has expired and isn't renewed, and it currently expires June 14th, unless it's renewed again, then you would need to operate under these new statutory provisions. What we'll call the rules in effect before COVID always said that you could do a video conference meeting, but you had to notice the participation of the public at every place where board members were going to be present. So for example, Teresa could be at town hall, Ryan could be at Michael's office, both of which are open to the public and can accommodate ADA. And so that would be fine under old rules. You can still do that. But the new provision says that you can also have people participating under what's called extraordinary circumstances, somewhat to be defined by board adoption of procedures, which would allow participation by somebody when the public could not attend with them. For example, if someone were ill and couldn't allow the public to be in a place where they could be. In that situation, a person could still participate in the meeting, but it's a lot of buts here. A quorum of people have to be present at one of the locations where the public can attend. So in the new video conferencing rules, we'll call them the new rules, everybody has to be on video. There's no phones, there's no turning your video off. If you're going to use these new procedures, you have to make sure that everybody can see one another and that the public can see you, okay? And so a lot of the things in the draft procedure are reflective of the requirements of the statute. there's an attempt to try to define for you what are considered to be extraordinary circumstances. Guidance from Coog indicates that they think that it can be broader than the few things that were listed as examples in the statute, but that the requirement for you to adopt procedures is for you to identify what your board considered those to be and what those procedures would be. So you are required to hold a public hearing before you adopt these kinds of rules. So what I would say is if the governor extends the executive order past June 14th, you could continue to work the way that you've been working.
Right.
If she doesn't, or at the point at which it goes away, if you haven't adopted rules pursuant to a public hearing, then you will either have to meet in person or you will have to follow the old rules for doing video conferencing where the public knows in your notice of meeting where they can go to attend in person with all of your board members. Okay.
So two things on that, Chris. The first is in terms of making sure everybody would be on video. We know that that's not necessarily fully ADA compliant, especially for people that use screen technologies to be able to help interpret anything that's being shown on the screen or otherwise. How do we navigate that circumstance? And
so one of the, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then obviously the second for all the board members, the other thing that I want to bring up is because of the rule to have the quorum present in public, meaning that we will all need to be at CEDC's offices or otherwise, I want to bring up the opportunity to potentially push this meeting by an hour because I know that some folks are still working at that time. I don't want it to go too late, but something that would at least accommodate for people to be able to make it from their offices to that central location so the meeting could be public. Yeah, go ahead,
So
Chris.
that latter is completely up to you. In terms of ADA, the statute says that the folks who are setting up these video conferencing meetings are required to consider ADA accommodations in their video conferencing. When we've asked Coog what that means, they've said we're not ADA experts, but we think it probably means that you at least have to have your video conferencing set up so that people can use closed captioning, which many of the video conferencing systems allow, such as Zoom. So you just have to have those things enabled, right? So that people can make use of those. And beyond that, it's always been the case, whether you were in person or not in person, that if somebody requested, for example, a deaf interpreter, a hearing impaired interpreter, that you would, help them make arrangements for that and make that person available at the meeting if that were necessary. So in our notices, you'll see that we always say if there are, reasonable accommodations that are required, you need to let us know and we'll make those accommodations ahead of time. So that doesn't go away just because you're meeting in, virtually. So you could end up with a combination of those things, right?
Okay, so that's good. So there's leeway for us to make that, which is good.
All you're doing today is approving a public hearing, after which you will then decide
whether or not to adopt it. Exactly. So
Right.
I say we move forward with that just so that we have the option on the table. I'm getting some nods here. Can I get a motion in a second?
I make that motion. I second.
All right, perfect. So we'll go for a full vote. Mrs. Drahusha, can you go through the names, please?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Dennis Campbell? Here. Aye.
Present.
Paul Johnson?
I think that's me here.
No. But it's for the vote for yes to go to public hearing for this.
Okay, I can barely hear whoever's speaking.
Hang on, she's moving closer to the microphone now.
Okay.
Paul Johnson?
Aye.
Teresa Joyner?
Aye.
Cheryl Casaluga?
Not present.
Dominic Moranti?
Aye.
Richard Wallace?
Aye.
Brian Wallace?
Aye. Carries. Excellent. All right. So number 3 down. So Mr. Tucker, I will turn it over to you to go through the director's report now, as well as the remaining project updates.
Thank you very much. The Governor's Regional Economic Development Council has kicked off the 2022 consolidated funding application process. We had a briefing today on it with respect to some of the new initiatives, which does include a Renew New York, a program for restoration of buildings that need and properties that could be used for redevelopment. We'll get that out to all of you, just so that if there are projects you're aware of or grants you think you might be interested in, we can coordinate that with you. With respect to the projects that are pending, I have no update on the 620 Hudson House project. With respect to the depot project, my understanding is they had made a presentation to the Historic Preservation Commission, and there were discussions going back and forth after that April meeting. I don't have an update there. You may have more information on that. I know they're still working and waiting for the state tax credit process to continue with Office of Community Renewal. So there's no real specific updates there. I did speak to Sean Rowland, representing the Pocketbook Factory, PBF Hudson, on May 18th. He indicated their plan was to begin construction in June. I know he also spoke with his attorney about what papers were needed to be filed, and we had some engagement with Chris Shell with respect to some of the steps the developer has to take to begin the process under the state sales tax regulations. I have not heard any more about Hudson Public from the Galvin Foundation at 402 Warren. They are aware of our moratorium on approving projects, and I think they wanted to get a better sense as to what the IDA's plan was, so that they could respond or adapt. And with respect to an indication that we are anticipating the application from the Plus Development Group that has closed on the purchase of the Elks Club. Again, we're waiting to hear from them.
Okay.
So the Pocketbook Factory appears to be moving forward, and we do have the pending application from last month from SEC 7 LLC, which, as you know, is the project located at 7 Dock Street. It's the gut rehab and expansion of the Town and Country Market into a food processing project, where they have estimated in their application to the IDA a total cost of $7.5 million. They're looking at 6 to 10 jobs, including full-time, part-time equivalent over the first 2 years. We have provided analysis with respect to what they have asked for in terms of IDA benefits in an effort to be able to present to this board today a resolution for a public hearing, so that we can get further public input on the project and the benefits that have been requested. In the application, the developer had requested a mortgage tax exemption of based on a $4.5 million project. I think at our last meeting, they indicated it was $5 million. The debt that they were looking for, which would be $62,500. They were looking for a $350,000 sales tax exemption, which equates to $4.3 million of construction and equipment that's subject to sales tax. And they had requested a payment in lieu of tax agreement, which they estimated at $360,000. We've done analysis that shows that based on the assessment that would, based on the land cost and the amount they're spending on the building based on their application, that the assessment of $2,950,000 would generate a much lower benefit in terms of pilot than they had originally asked for. Now, they had asked for 360. The analysis would show that a pilot based on an assessment of 2.95 million would result in a tax savings from if there was no pilot, of 218,000. So it's significantly lower than what they asked for. And in addition, the project, if there were no project here, based on current tax rates and the current assessment of $460,000, the project would generate the property would generate $110,000 in taxes, and the proposed pilot is $692,000. So it's almost a $600,000 increase with no project. With respect to the benefit, cost benefit analysis, once you take the mortgage recording tax and the state keeps 50% and the county and town and the city have a formula to split it. And then you take the sales tax where 4% goes to the state and then the county and gets the balance and provides the city with a smaller portion than they do of the mortgage recording tax. And then you spread the pilot out amongst the three taxing jurisdictions. It shows that the county will get approximately $100,000 more in taxes if this project goes forward than under the current structure. And the city will get, based on the percentage of tax that the city pays, and the $75,000 IDA fee, which doesn't actually go to the city, but it is a benefit to a city entity. The benefit there would be over $100,000, and as well to the school district. So when you look at the analysis, it does show that there is a positive benefit, not only on the regional level of 1.5% to the city. The benefit, the cost, the benefits to the city are 2.3 times the cost and 2.6 to the school district. Now, we're required also by law to go through a economic analysis by an independent consultant. We did sign up for a program with MRB Group, which is an independent consultant. For $1,000, they have a model that they run on any project that we give them, and we split that with the Columbia County IDA, so the city only has a $500 expense, and this can be used for all future projects. Their analysis showed a 14%, or I'm sorry, a ratio of 20 times the benefit to the city or to local. They do local, which is city, school, and county, and they do state. But the way they get there is they include not only the analysis that I went through that showed how much sales tax, mortgage tax, and real estate tax you're going to lose versus what you're going to get. And they add into that analysis the increase in temporary income tax from construction, ongoing income tax revenue, temporary job sales tax revenue, and ongoing job sales tax revenue. But that adds almost not $8 to $9 million into the benefit. It adds 428,000 in benefit analysis.
Mhm.
And it also includes $8 million in payroll. And I think that just distorts what the true cost and benefit is, because that's a economic model that's based on projections. And, as an example, on a local benefit, they're indicating $1.4 million in construction payroll. And then over the 10 years, the ongoing payroll of the employees that are working there, it is based on what the application projects of $6 million. But I think that when you really look at these things, to look at what are you losing in tax dollars versus what you're gaining, and more importantly, what are you gaining based on doing nothing?
Right.
So I do think that the economic analysis does justify considering the project, and I would recommend at this stage, subject to input from council and discussion, that you approve a public hearing to allow the public to comment on their application and their proposed pilot and the analysis that was just presented and I emailed to you earlier and is available to anyone listening. And also that we have received their environmental impact documentation. Normally the planning board takes the lead agency status, but the developer did not check the right box.
Right.
It did not come before the planning board. And so council has prepared a resolution to address that issue as well. And Chris, I'll turn it over to you to just.
Yeah, just two things, Mr. Chairman. If you could consider the seeker resolution first, followed by the public hearing resolution. And I will just note that the planning board did do its own review, but if the applicant doesn't request a coordinated review and set it up that way, then what happened was that the planning board, and that was fine, considered it in an uncoordinated review. But all that means is that the planning board made its own decision, but it doesn't bind the IDA. So the IDA has to review it on its own. Okay.
Yep. No, and I think in a way, I think both arrived at the same conclusion either way. So I think, even if it's not binding from the planning board, we're in a good spot with having both. So Chris, would you like us to vote then, as you're saying, first on the environmental resolution and then set the public hearing?
Yes, please.
Excellent. Do we need the motion in a second first, or can we go straight to the vote?
You need a motion in a second. Yeah.
Motion in a second, please.
I'll make that
Discussion
motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Moranti. All right, Mrs. Drahushik, if you could do a roll call vote, please, for, just want to make sure I'm getting this right. I've got it very large on my screen here. Is this for resolution number 2022? Well, it's -0, but for the environmental?
Ryan Wallace,
Aye.
Kamal Johnson,
Aye.
Heather Campbell.
Aye.
Richard Wallace,
Aye.
Teresa Joyner,
Aye.
Cheryl Kuslik is absent, Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Carried.
Excellent. And can I get a motion in a second, please, for setting the date of the public hearing for this project?
I put a motion forward to set the public hearing next month.
Oh,
Thank you,
I'll
Teresa.
I'll
And a
second.
second from Dominic. Thank you. Vote, please, Mrs. Drahushik.
Ryan Wallace,
Aye.
Paul Johnson,
Aye.
Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Richard Wallace,
Aye.
Teresa Joyner,
Aye.
Cheryl is absent, Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Carries. Excellent.
Who's the public hearing?
Perfect. Mr. Tucker, you'll let them know that we look forward to setting the date, and we shall do so expediently.
Also, Chris, was there one other resolution, or did you get them all? Got the public meeting, we got the environmental, and we got the public hearing for the project. And I guess the other was the draft letter for the deviation to the school district and the city and the county. But they don't need approval.
that's just ministerial, and it's based on the information that was presented in the application and also in your economic evaluation that you provided to the board.
Correct.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker, and thank you, Chris, very much as always for your help too.
And I'm going to join the call so I can listen to the presentation on the matrix and toolkit, but I'll be virtual in that process. So
No problem. Travel safely. Thank you for your time today. With that, Ted, I'll turn it over to you to go through the output of our 3 sessions and where we sit both with the evaluation proposed framework as well as the CBA.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep. And you have the ability to share your screen too. I believe that should be enabled for you. Excellent.
Yeah. So, so a couple things. I have the work product shared here. I'm also going to drop. So the material was in the notice that went out yesterday. I'm putting a link here just in case people want to click on it. If you have any issue with this link, please let me know. But just so that people have a live copy of it and you can see it. But so, briefly would like to the board's attention in running through this, what we're calling project evaluation criteria. The result of 3 meetings that we held, 2 in April, 2 in March, 1 in March and then 2 in April. The result of discussion from many of the people on the call now, as well as members of other boards with other local leaders, as well as community members. So the notion here is, so the project here started with research that we performed in the fall of last year and presented to the board in December. The notion being that the board would have some tool to evaluate the community benefits resulting from a project that's seeking a pilot approval. In discussions over the past 2 months, the consensus, I think, was, or the discussion was around having some box check core requirements, as well as scaled sort of scaled evaluation criteria. And I'll go through that here. I'll mention that the document that resulted incorporates features from a number of IDAs that we researched in the area, including the City of Albany, Ulster County, and Clinton County. The core requirements for the project, there's 8 of them: affordable housing, green resiliency in building, workforce training, historic preservation, the fact that the application is complete, planning board approval, a but-for requirement, and then meets New York State as well as Hudson IDA requirements. The 4 items, the complete application to meets requirements would give I think we rely on board staff to ensure that the application is complete, whether or not the planning board has approved it, that the project would not proceed but for the approval by the board. And then the meets New York State and Hudson IDA requirements is a kind of a catch-all in the event that the board adopts particular requirements in the future that can be reflected by this box. The initial 4 items on the left were the result of the extensive conversations that we've had over the last 2 months. I'm just going to keep going unless someone throws up a hand or has a question. But happy to take questions during or after. With respect to the project community commitments, this gives the reviewing board member an opportunity to analyze, and if the font is too small, just let me know, but I'll read it out loud. That an applicant has considered criteria that is being evaluated and engaged community as well as community partners in making the application. So that gives a board member a chance to identify whether or not, in their opinion, that's happened. Specific community commitments that could be considered are listed here too. So whether there's MWBE participation, equal opportunity workforce utilization, inclusionary housing, as well as use of regional or local labor, as well as an apprenticeship program. So there's some overlap, with respect to workforce housing, workforce training, or affordable housing in the reflected in the community commitments category, as well as the core requirements. And I think that's indicative of the priority given to housing, given to workforce training that individuals who have participated over the past couple months indicated. The financial summary of the project application gives a quick snapshot to the reviewing board member of what is at issue. So the estimated amount of investment to be returned to the tax base, the categorization of the project. So is it a technology company? Is there a manufacturing facility? Is it hospitality or hotel? Whether it's education, housing, or something else. A listing of the pilot payments to be made, the requested financial incentive, as well as a breakdown of those items across school taxes, property taxes, mortgage recording taxes, as well as sales taxes. So sort of quick snapshot for the reviewing board member about what is being, what's going into the project and what's coming out. The largest section here is the scaled evaluation criteria. And this section gives a board member who is ranking or who's evaluating a project the opportunity to add particular points to specific criteria. So this first column relates to jobs, whether it's new jobs or retained jobs, and there's particular bands, whether there are new permanent jobs or retained jobs. Here, the projected wages of those jobs, so above living wage, additional workforce investment that developers are making, particular additional points are offered for environmental sustainability of the project. And lastly, the creativity of the project or the differentiation of the service or good being provided. This was a point that was raised during the workshops, where it was recognized that individuals want businesses that want to prioritize businesses that are of particular interest to the community. And while additional hospitality or other uses might be certainly important or desired, there might be additional needs or for goods or services that individuals wanted to prioritize. The maximum score, at least for the scaled part, is 14 based on the 5 categories and just sort of how the environmental aspect is scaled or is written down. That's a quick nutshell, nutshell of the tool. It's very much a draft, very much looking for feedback or discussion. If it seems incredibly complex, I'm happy to talk more about the I'm happy to talk more about the specifics, sort of why particular decisions were made.
I'm going to preempt what I'm sure might be one of the first questions from Chris, which would be in the core requirements. How are we considering affordable housing, green and resiliency, workforce training, and historic preservation in there? What we're looking to do is expand the application process to have the applicant actually discuss in writing how they've considered the issue and its impact on the city. Right now, those are probably the 4 most pressing areas that end up coming about through multiple iterations outside of what the IDA itself does, and often enough end up coming up in the 11th hour as well. So we want to start getting ahead of that by making sure that they can be identified and addressed well in advance of the process. So it's not a yes or no category, but it needs to be part of the consideration process and how they view what they would like to do here with their application. Second to that, I think, Ted, what I want us to figure out too, and maybe this might be something for you, me, and Chris to take offline, is what does that potential scoring system for the core look like? I mean, is it 1 point for each, right? Financial summary of the project application has no bearing on the scoring. It's just meant to be a reminder for all evaluators to ensure that you're looking at everything copaesthetically on one page, right? No need to be flipping through multiple documents. But if that's the core, right, Ted? So if it's 14 as a max scale as a max, including the scale, are we just saying that it's technically 22 is the max score that somebody could get here, right? And then we don't put, and Chris, I think this goes to what some of the concerns are that you raised early on in the process. We don't have the pass or fail number on this because it's an evaluation rubric. It is not a scorecard in that aspect. But it does leave the doorway open for the project community commitments, which we'll discuss momentarily in the CBA, as well as, again, it's a critical measurement by which we will alter the way applications are written and submitted. It gives an opportunity for us to actually have people pause and think about these other impacts that are important to our community. Let me pause there.
And if I could just say, one thing that you will need to do as you refine this is make sure that each and every one of the provisions that are required statutorily to be taken into account and evaluated are incorporated into this rubric.
That's correct. That's correct. Board comments at all? All right. Chris, what would be our process now to be working with Ted in sessions, not today, but in general, on the refining process? Do we have to like vote to accept it in for review or anything?
I think it's up to the board if they want to take some time to look at this, or if they want to say this is exactly the direction we want, let's have somebody work up, you know, an actual proposal based on this rubric.
We have time. So what I would like
I
is
say we wait and look through it.
Yeah, I would like the board to take between now and the next meeting, or who knows if they'll end up being a special meeting later this month or anything, but please refine, ask your questions, direct them to Ted and the rest of the board members. But as you know, a lot of work went into getting this here. So I want to make sure that we get this as crisp as possible. All right. Ted, do you want to jump over to the CBA then there too? And I'll preface this where the city of Cincinnati's that we have been looking at as a model, one of the creators of that document, Ted knows professionally as well. And Ted, I don't know, did you have an opportunity to reach out to, was it Mr. Gross that helped put it together?
Yeah, so I reached out to one. I reached out to Julian Gross. I wasn't able to connect yet, but I'll follow up. But, you know, basically, I think that there's a document that's available for download online, and you know, so it's freely available. I thought, you know, wanted to give a heads up that, you know, hey, we're considering using this in a meaningful way. So yeah, you're still planning to reach. Haven't made contact yet, but will do so.
Okay. And so Chris, what we're looking to do there is essentially get permissions as needed to repurpose this. I don't know if it's a licensing element that we're going to need, but if it truly is a malleable tool that can be used, I just want to make sure that we've got some sort of legal rights to, for lack of a better word, plagiarize this for our purposes, and obviously then update it to be a little bit more centered to Hudson. And I will table number 5 then, which is the CBA agreement sponsorship, because once we can get those permissions, Ted, it is my intent on asking the IDA to help put forward the monies needed to help actually craft this in a way so that it is professionally available and meets the, for lack of a better word, branding and content needs that are more applicable to the city of Hudson.
Yep. I dropped a link in the chat. Just, you know, I'll go over the sort of the title page and the table of contents. There was an artist based in Cincinnati that took content and material from Policy Link, which is a national advocacy group based, it was a national group. And Julian Gross, who's an attorney who's based on the West Coast, but was formerly of PolicyLink, going through the step, both defining what a community benefits agreement is, discussing the various steps involved, and there's also some helpful artistic renderings of cards that can be useful in meetings. So these are towards the end of the guide, but sort of like you were saying, it's a way. It would be a way for the board to encourage, educate, as well as communicate to community members about opportunities to engage with projects that are seeking public benefit through the IDA.
Would you be able to send us that link in our emails?
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make sure. Yeah, I will do that after the meeting.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Ted, again for everything for those 3 sessions.
Sure.
I know it was grueling. That said, at this point, are there any elements that existing board members would like to bring up before I open it for public comment? No. All right, I will open the floor up for public comment then. And with no public comment, it is 4:44 in the afternoon. Can I get a motion in a second for
I'll
adjournment?
make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
excellent. Thank you, everybody, very much. Please do review the CBA and the evaluation criteria, and we'll pick this up at our next meeting.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
will, because we just got it. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.